The morning light was still soft when the diesel growl of a white Cadillac Escalade rolled straight across the main gate of our 220-acre spread outside Lubbock, tires spitting red dust like it was marking territory. I was 61, coffee in one hand, phone in the other, waiting on the feed truck that was due with 4 tons of coastal hay. Grandpa Walt, 78 and built like the oak posts he'd set as a boy, stepped out of the barn wiping grease from his knuckles. He took one look at that gleaming SUV parked dead center across the only way in or out and muttered, "Well, I'll be damned if that ain't the prettiest roadblock I ever saw." The driver's window slid down smooth as money, and out leaned a woman in her mid-50s, hair sprayed into a helmet, sunglasses perched like a crown. "Morning," she said, voice sweet enough to rot teeth. "You're obstructing a proposed community access corridor. I'm Lorraine Whitaker, Compliance Director for Willow Ridge Development. We'll need this gate relocated by Friday." I blinked so hard my hat shifted. "Ma'am, this driveway's been here since 1924. My family dug it with mules and bad language." She smiled the way a cat smiles at a cornered mouse. "Progress doesn't ask permission, cowboy." Grandpa Walt didn't raise his voice. He just tipped his Stetson and said, "Lady, you're parked on private property. Move it, or I will." She rolled the window up, reversed in a cloud of caliche, and disappeared down the county road. The feed truck arrived 20 minutes later, driver laughing so hard he nearly dumped a bale. "Heard you got yourself a new toll booth," he said. Grandpa spat once and replied, "Tolls 72 hours. After that, the creek collects." She came back the next dawn, same spot, same clipboard, same heels sinking into soft dirt like accusations. I filmed every second, date, time, license plate, the way she photographed our mailbox like it was evidence in a murder trial. Grandpa logged it in his spiral notebook the way he logged rainfall. Neat, calm, lethal. By the end of the first week, she was parking diagonal, blocking both lanes, engine idling while she talked loud on speaker about setback violations and eminent domain precedents. Neighbors driving by slowed to gawk. One old boy in a rusted Chevy leaned out and hollered, "Need a bigger parking lot, sweetheart?" Week 2, she brought survey stakes, bright orange plastic hammered into our fence line while we were branding calves in the back pasture. When I walked up, she was snapping pictures of the creek. "Sweetwater Branch is now a designated greenway," she announced. "Your cattle troughs are in the buffer zone." I pointed at the water. "That creek's been ours since before your granddaddy owned a bicycle. You're trespassing." She smiled again, colder this time. "File a complaint. My office loves paperwork." That night Grandpa pulled a cedar box from under his bed. Inside were deeds yellow as butter, surveys sealed in 1931, a 1952 hydrographic map showing Sweetwater Branch entirely within Barlow boundaries, 20 feet past each bank, water rights, mineral rights, the works. He ran a calloused thumb along the faded ink. "Truth don't expire," he said. "But arrogance has a shelf life." My daughter-in-law Claire, a paralegal who'd married my son before he shipped out for the last time, scanned every page into the county records before sunrise. She also drafted a cease and desist citing Texas Property Code Section 683.011, abandoned vehicles on private land, 72-hour removal clock. Grandpa hand-painted a sign in the shop, private drive, vehicles left over 72 hours subject to removal at owner's expense. We sank the post 2 feet into clay hard as iron and poured concrete around it. Sheriff's Deputy Mike Alvarez stopped by on patrol, read the sign, and grinned. "You're doing it textbook, Walt. I'll swing by when the clock runs out." Lorraine ignored the sign. She started showing up at random hours, dawn, noon, dusk, always blocking, always filming, always quoting statutes that didn't apply. One rainy Tuesday, she drove straight through the drainage ditch I'd spent 2 days digging. Tires spun, mud flew, the bank collapsed, and 3 acres flooded before lunch. Grandpa stood on the porch in the downpour, coffee untouched, watching brown water swallow his winter rye. When she finally reversed out, he walked to the ditch, knelt, and let the ruined soil run through his fingers. "That's a signature," he said. "And signatures get answered." The 72-hour clock started at 9:17 a.m. On April 19th, when the Escalade planted itself dead center again. Grandpa logged every minute. I filmed every approach. Lorraine sat inside, engine idling, wipers slapping, convinced her title gave her the high ground. By hour 36 the rain turned serious. Sweetwater Branch rose fast, clay turned to gumbo, and the Cadillac's tires sank to the rims. She tried rocking it, forward, reverse, forward, until the undercarriage kissed mud. Then the battery died. She climbed out, heels ruined, screaming into a dead phone. Hour 60 showed the rear bumper kissing creek water. Grandpa never raised his voice. He just kept writing. At hour 71 Sheriff Alvarez arrived with a tow truck driver who took one look and backed away. "Ain't hooking that in this current," he said. "She's creek bait." Lorraine's face went the color of the clay stuck to her slacks. "You can't touch my property," she shrieked. Grandpa closed his notebook. "Ma'am, you abandoned it on mine. Clock says I can." He fired up the 1968 John Deere 4020, the one he'd rebuilt after Vietnam. The engine caught with a roar that scattered crows from the cottonwoods. Chain in hand, he waded knee-deep through mud, hooked the tow ring under the rear axle, and gave me the signal. I eased the throttle. The chain sank tight. The Escalade groaned, lifted an inch, then slid backward like a calf on ice. Lorraine ran alongside, pounding the fender. I'll sue. I'll have you arrested. Sheriff Alvarez raised a hand. Stand back, ma'am. This is lawful removal. 10 feet to the bank. 5. The front end rose, the rear dipped, and with a sound like a giant sipping soup, the Cadillac nosed into Sweetwater Branch. Water exploded over the hood, rushed through open windows, and swallowed 2 tons of Detroit steel in under 30 seconds. Only the roof stayed visible, bubbling like a submarine taking on water. Lorraine stood ankle-deep on the bank, mouth working soundlessly. Grandpa killed the tractor, climbed down, and tipped his hat to the sheriff. Removal complete, Mike. Creek's doing the rest. By dawn, the flood had claimed the rest. The roof vanished. Sweetwater ran chocolate for a day, then cleared itself like it was washing evidence downstream. The county attorney filed charges the same week. Criminal trespass, property damage, filing fraudulent surveys, conspiracy to misrepresent boundaries. Lorraine's glossy redevelopment maps turned out to be doctored overlays. Willow Ridge's investors had paid her bonuses for every acre reclaimed. The board suspended her pending investigation. Her Escalade was declared a total loss. Insurance denied the claim under Act of God, flood. Grandpa never crowed. He rebuilt the ditch wider, deeper, lined it with riprap the creek couldn't chew. Claire hung the 1952 map in the ranch office above his desk. Neighbors started dropping by with casseroles and quiet thanks. Turns out Lorraine had been bullying half the county with fake easements. Sheriff Alvarez opened 3 more investigations. Willow Ridge withdrew its expansion plan, issued a public apology in the Lubbock Avalanche Journal, and paid restitution for the flooded rye, the ditch, and Claire's legal fees. Every spring since, the grass grows thickest where the Cadillac sank. Grandpa called it nature's headstone. He passed 2 winters later, sitting in his porch rocker at sunrise, coffee cooling beside the notebook open to the last entry. Creek 1, Arrogance 0. We buried him on the ridge overlooking Sweetwater, flag at half-mast. The John Deere parked beside the grave like an honor guard. The land still remembers. So do we. What about you? Ever had somebody try to redraw your boundaries with a clipboard and a lie? Did you fight with paper, patience, or a length of chain? Drop your story below, especially if it's about standing up to petty tyrants who think rules only apply one way. Let's hear where you draw the line between order and overreach, between justice and plain meanness. The Creek's listening.